they were like shocked. We talked about the policies we were trying to establish to go forward with that. And so I think that the important thing is that maybe there's things we can leverage that others are already doing at a federal level, or others activities that we can bring here. So I like both of your ideas, Jerry and Dave, about how we do
to
it.
inform ourselves.
Right. Otherwise we're constantly, preaching to the choir. I mean, we're all informed, we all know what we know, and I think that where we fail most of the time is to inform others that would like to know and are interested in knowing, but we don't speak in a language that they understand. I think that's what we've been trying to change, is the paradigm of we don't do engineer or scientist speak. We actually talk about the importance of nuclear science technology and an application that is something that people can get that every day don't work around science technology and understand from an everyday standpoint what this really means to them. For example, we're working with the Health Physics Society to change the measure for radiation on a global basis to get away from things that are so concerning or disconcerting about milligram or millisieverts or Roentgens or whatever it may be, to something that people can correlate themselves to, kind of like that like a big scale for seismic. So that 9's not very good at all, but 1 may not be much of a concern. But something you can measure and say that 1's equivalent to this or that, or flying in an airplane, living in Denver, standing beside your toaster for 6 hours. So there's a number of things that we're working on to try to make sure that we're educating and informing the public and obviously our policymakers about the importance of nuclear science technology, the improvement of quality of life. So that is where I think this group in the state of Virginia can bring that messaging that doesn't exist now.
Well, and I think too, you mentioned we all know what we know. I think you're right, we all know what we know. We don't necessarily know what everybody else around the table knows. And so I think this can also be a venue in which we share, so that we really do share the knowledge we have, bring it all together, and educate ourselves, so that we can all know what David knows. It does, even short of a half-day session that is educational. Programmatically, I've always thought that at each of our meetings we could have one significant presentation on something that is new, important, cutting edge, big, whatever, and to educate ourselves and keep ourselves current, and talking to each other about important issues. And it would also attract other people to come to our meetings, and we can publicize those, and other people. I mean, it's sort of a small step in
the education
piece.
It's a great idea, and there's policy issues that come up every day that all of us may not be aware of, where decisions are being made and influences are being created and products are being developed, and talks to try to influence that policy in one direction or another that supports nuclear science technology. And we may not all at this table all be created equal when it comes to understanding what that is. So I agree with you. There's an element of that we should do in our meetings next year, and every one of them, starting with our first one.
So when you come across something really good, you see a really great presentation, or if you have ideas, send them to Randy so you can sort of schedule things.
I volunteered for the next meeting to give a presentation on the used nuclear fuel situation. That basically has all the technologies. It's not an issue for France or for most of Europe.
Bless you.
And I know you've probably heard our presentation. You've been probably to the facilities and friends. So I'd be happy to talk about that.
Be great.
I can make it short and clear, and Dave can keep me straight when I sometimes get isotopes a bit off.
Cool.
Lots of photos.
That's a great idea. Why don't you send us an email outlining what you would make a presentation on? We'll include that in our meeting next year. And I think we need to be thinking about others too. And I don't know where we're going to start discovering, and it's important that we talk about those so everybody gets on the same level, if you will, about some simple understanding, if you will, about what's happening. Because there's so much going on around us by other entities and organizations, we need to take advantage of it and leverage that for our sake. What I don't want to do is to be, recreating the wheel and doing all these things that are inconsistent with or in opposition to. Yeah, it just makes no sense at all. Because we're a small organization, we'll all be an important one, and I think that how we approach this and leverage these kind of things can help us be very successful here in the state of Virginia. And
even something as simple as a presentation on A&S and everything they're doing, so that we know everything that they're in and what they're working on. And
the universe of
so that when we're sitting around this table, we can say, hey, aren't they working on that? And could we plug it in here and there? And even things as
Well,
basic as
that may be, what Dave said, it may be more than just A&S, but he knew what A&S was doing, what NEI was doing, what W&A was doing, and maybe Syntac and Nick, and, I mean, there's a lot of organizations in the Washington DC area that are all doing something related to nuclear science technology. Coordinating them is going to be a nightmare because of the
Good to know
different
who they are
agendas.
and what they're doing.
But now that I'm on the board of many of them, I'm really starting to make them talk to each other and force them together. Now they're regretting the fact that they let me play. So, but it really trying to force us to have a consistent approach, a really unified approach instead of this, hit and miss kind of thing. So if we can continue that, and you guys are aware of it, I think it's very, very important. Because this is the first state activity like this. This is just so robust. The other states have talked about other things, but even with South Carolina, what they've done, nobody else has a state activity as engaged as Virginia.
And as one of the guilty parties who started all this fuss, I just want to say how very grateful I am for the engagement, the willingness of just such strong, smart people around the table to participate and support this effort. It's just really, really heartening to watch and see. So grateful.
Well, we're grateful, Rich, for you in the sense that it's rewarding for us to know that somebody cared enough to start this thing.
You heard our cries.
I still do.
So I see, before I go away from the goals and priorities for 2015, because I'm real big about who, what, and when, what can we expect? What's a reasonable, given the fact you're going to be busy at the end of the next couple of weeks finalizing our report, our annual report, would be a reasonable time to expect something from you all about how we might want to move forward on our goals and priorities and how our meetings should be structured and having an expert presenter at each meeting and so on and so forth, that structure. Should somebody craft that and others comment on it? I'm asking for us to, right now our meetings come, they have an agenda. We come, we talk about issues. We don't have anything on this agenda to have the expert speaker. We don't have a learning situation, if you will, this transformational learning activity where we all talk about things in a sense that are beyond just the conduct of business for the authority itself. So I think we need to restructure how, starting in 2015, given the comments I heard, what is the content, format, and detail of our meetings? How are we going to go forward? If we're going to, and everybody needs to understand that when they come here starting in the future, instead of starting at 9 and leaving at 11:30, that it may be starting at 9 and really leaving at 1, like our agenda time frame says. We've never had a meeting that's run to 1 o'clock or close to it. But I think if we're going to have these kind of things, we just need to be prepared for that.
I'll volunteer to send you something.
Okay. And we should expect to see that live?
This afternoon.
No.
You will see it before the annual report gets submitted.
It's a race.
Okay, Jerry.
Gauntlet has been
The gauntlet's down. I see it. I understand where it came from.
Love competition.
Yeah, well, you see we're in a sort of a competition.
Decent of the team.
Oh, that's good.
That is great. And I like the idea, Mary, that you really come up with. So if that, we've finished Roman numeral 5 Alpha and Bravo, and we're on to what would be considered other business, like new business or a rediscussion of any old business you have. So I open this to the table.
I think you actually crossed in other business.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, nonetheless, I still have the responsibility to offer the option. Well, then that would take us then to future meeting dates. And I think we need to figure out when we want to meet, and it's my belief we should be meeting according with our agreement, basically once every 3 months, and that in each calendar period of 3 months, we should meet at least one time. And honestly, we should prepare ourselves to maybe even meet more than that, depending upon the needs of the consortium and the authority to do so. So, having said that, we're meeting in December, so to meet in January would probably be too soon because we'll be interfacing with our consortium that first week of January. What would be, and this is never easy because you sit and you ask everybody at a meeting to look at their calendar, What's a set of dates you want to meet? So how do you want to structure this? What's the will of this board? Do you want to meet like at the end of each quarter, like, March and June and September and December? Or do you want to meet in the middle, like February and May and?
I propose trying to find a date in early February.
And I agree.
Yeah, generally, because I think with quarterly meetings, if you don't back it up by a month, you always have the December challenge.
Yeah.
And so if you can get it back so that November is the last one, and that was
Well, that's really going to be
2, 5,
important for
8,
next year,
11.
because I don't want to miss that November date submitting this annual report.
So if you look at months 2, 5, 8, and 11,
Okay.
that tends to work better. You get that, you don't fall into the December trap.
Later.
The other thing about having that February meeting is that that's when the general assembly is in session,
I
and
was gonna
theoretically
ask.
you could, hey, come in and meet for a
Have a
little bit, then go see
presentation.
go see your legislators and work calls a little bit.
Well, then maybe we should plan this around things that you're aware of on the legislative.
And you won't be able to play that out far enough. But
Yeah. Would, but it were predictable.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Basically, we would just pick at some point.
So much for that unrealistic.
Yeah.
So then,
Free-for-all.
if that's the case, then, do you have a particular day that works better for you in a week? Do you like not Mondays, not Fridays, but like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Should we be looking for a particular day in a week?
Not just.
I'm fine, I just have an issue with the 9 AM time.
You prefer that to be later?
Yeah.
Okay.
For travel reasons, and then it helps avoid
Okay.
hotel expense on this.
Gotcha.
Ten?
So if we could talk about, you probably, I don't know, Mondays and Fridays may not work for you, I don't know. Do you prefer a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday? Does that affect you, Jerry?
No.
Or Gary, relate to your schedule?
No. I'm pretty flexible.
I remember I'm wide open.
You can just throw out a date, February 18th, does that work for people?
Well, we were trying to figure out if we were going to, first of all, once we figure out the date, we're going to set the time, but I'm thinking we're going to have the time later than 9, maybe more like 10 or 10:30, and then we're talking about making it a Wednesday or a Thursday seem to be your all's preference.
So 8, 18
Maybe
is
it's a
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
How does the 18th look for everybody?
Looks good to me. So we got a quorum.
For you?
All right for you?
Quorum.
No.
Another
Is the
date?
19th
Is there a
work
day
for you,
that
Matthew?
fits better, Matt?
Well, bear in mind, and I don't know what we can expect next, and I'm not going to be very tolerant of this, but if we have members of this board that don't attend these meetings, then we're going to ask them very kindly to step down and put somebody on at will, because I can't afford for us to be coming here and not have a quorum so we can't conduct business. That is not an option. And we barely got a quorum this morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Matt, what about the 17th? Everyone can say, no bio breaks,
Weeks
we'll
wide.
find a day.
Yeah. 17 December.
Yeah, that works for me.
Everybody, 17?
Anybody here can't do Tuesday, the 17th of February?
Speak now.
Huh?
Said speak now.
Speak now. So what time do we want to have it starting? 10, 10:30?
At 10 would be fine.
You stand there?
Okay, given the fact that that's going to be the first meeting where we're going to have some presentations and discussions, I think we'll probably need to be prepared to be here for 4 hours.
Maybe for lunch.
Now, can we bring in lunch over this, or?
That's up to you all. Just remember, we have no resources, so whoever is.
We can each pitch in $10 for our lunch.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to handle the logistics.
Sure, we can figure something out.
Areva's happy to host the lunch on the 17th.
Yeah.
So if we just,
Yeah. I'm
as
sure.
treasurer, I'll have to figure out how we issue an invoice to Areva so Areva can pay it.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
we'll host the lunch for everybody, sandwiches.
Yeah.
And it could be simple. I mean,
It's simple. and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't have.
Well, it can be a working lunch. It can be
It's
a
a
round.
working
Yeah.
lunch,
Yeah.
just sandwiches and all that.
So then we're
you just-
scheduled for our next meeting is the 17th of February, 10 to 2 p.m.
It's a
Gary,
great
can we
location.
count on DCU still being able to accommodate us for a meeting location?
Yes.
Yeah, this is so easy and convenient.
Yeah.
Although at some point, we probably should get some other locations around the country.
Okay, do we want to attempt to schedule our May and